All right. Okay. Talk to me, Allison.
Okay, so the show I have coming up first is Park City, and I haven't done it since 2011. And the weather looks like it's going to be gorgeous. Like 50s at night, but high 70s, low 80s during the day. So nice mountain weather. And about a 10-hour drive or a little more to get there. So we're just going to do it in one day. Um, this way I have tomorrow to uh I'm pretty much done, but I like to bring food with me and all that. And so but yeah, my it's kind of, you know, beginners always say, well, how much should I have at a show? How much work? And I recently had a conversation with somebody who's doing her very first shows this fall. And, my answer to that is always, well, how much can you make? I mean, it depends upon what you make. And so, like, my work takes a long time. And so I kept working. Um, and I also made sure that certain designs that I know are easier selling, made sure I had more of those. But I have no idea really, because to a certain degree, it's a guessing game because you don't know what somebody's going to buy. And if I have a really nice collection of showpieces, I've increased my collection of the all gold because most of my work is oxidized silver and gold, but I've made a few more of the all gold pieces. And so Park City, which I hadn't done since 2011, we'll see. I am pretty sure. I recall it to be a crowded show. There is a gate fee, um, and it's on the main street up this hill, and I'm kind of in the middle of where the hill is.
Is
And
Jeff's show on a hill?
the whole show is on Main Street, which goes up a hill.
Okay.
But and it's a pretty steep hill, especially if you're at the top. But I'm kind of in this a little more. I mean, it's slightly slanted, so I basically just put my cases. I don't shim them up. I just put them on the slant because people are standing that way. And the only problem is if it's too much of a slant, then the jewelry could kind of roll down. But that's always where my booth was way back when I used to do the show. So I think it'll be fine. And so yeah, just packing the final pieces. There was a time 2 weeks ago where I said, this is it, and I know I can't make any more. And so that's what I've been working on, and it helped to do that because I'm not good at the last minute scrambling. I mean, if I'm going to mess up, it'll happen at the last minute when I'm trying to rush. So I don't work that way. Um, and I mean, I have plenty of things on my desk that started, but I know it's, I'm not going to be able to finish anything, which is fine. But I have no idea really if I have enough work based on my history, how much I sell at shows. I think I should be okay. Um, but I will be better if I sell more of the showpieces as opposed to more of the basic stock. So, it's, to a certain degree, it's a guessing game. But it was interesting talking to this woman who's doing her very first art fairs, because there are so many little details, as you all know, that we have to know about. And plus, all of us have our own way of doing things and things that we like. For me, I don't want to fuss at a show. I don't want to have to, like, I do, as I was saying before, I lay out all the jewelry as it's going to be in the cases. I take photographs and then I pack them up, and they're like in Ziplocs. All the little bags go into a Ziploc. So each case, let's say 1 through 4, has a Ziploc. And so I know all of that, Ziploc number 2 goes into case number 2. And then I look at the pictures for the layout, and that helps me the first day of the show. But it's a pain in the neck to set it up here, but I know it makes my life easier there at the show. Plus, I don't want to spend my time pricing things or making those sorts of decisions under duress of the anxiety of doing a show. And I have this list. It's a basic craft show list. One is for flying, one is for driving. There's categories for, do you have electricity or not? And so I don't have to rethink every time I do a show. I look at the list and I might add things, change it, whatever. But that list really helps because I know for the most part I won't forget something. And then I have Eric read the list. So it's good to have somebody else read it also. And I check everything off. But just the minutia of what we do, the details, aside from the tent and the display cases, the persnickety little stuff that when I was talking to this person who's going to start doing shows for the first time, I realized, I can't just do such a brain dump, let her get the tent and the displays, and she's got several months. And as things come up, she can ask me, but
Is it somebody that lives near you?
No, she's in California. I did tell her about your group and that she should.
Well, no, I was going to say have her come and meet you at a show and see what's going on. Is she a jeweler also?
She is, but she's not near a show that I'm going to be in. She was a student of mine in the past, so she's in California, Northern California.
Tell her to go to Art in the High Desert.
Well, that's kind of far for her, but yeah, it's probably 7.5 hours. So before I started doing art fairs, I spent 2 years visiting them, local, or wherever I was. And, of course, when you go to a show, if you're going to talk to the artist, you want to be conscientious that they're there to sell and you step out of the way. But, it was always very enlightening. And there were some shows I went to and right away I could say, no, this isn't the right show for me. And, based on, a lot of things, the type of work, just the whole feel of the show. And but yeah, so she has not visited one of the shows that she's doing. It was my very first show I did. The other one she has not visited, and I know it's a crowded show, like 300,000 people, but I don't know. I mean, I always think it's a good idea to visit shows if you can before doing them. So anyway, it's, I think what we do, I would never describe it as fun. People at shows always say, oh, it must be so fun to, and it's like
a job.
Right. But
we're working.
No, it's fun.
We are. Well, so here's the thing. When people ask me about making jewelry, it must be fun. I say, well, I love doing it, but it's frustrating. It's not fun. Fun isn't the word I would use. Anything that you're creating, it takes a certain bandwidth of your brain, especially, the aesthetic part of it. And, in doing art fairs, I enjoy doing them, but they're hard, they're hard work. They're exhausting. And, sometimes if the show ends early, you could go out and socialize with other artists. But I guess fun is just this ubiquitous catch-all that, our customers use to try to make a connection. So,
hey, I always thought it was fun.
It's always fun.
Still
As
fun.
Matter of fact, here's my 1978 booth.
No, don't show us.
It's my
are
background.
you showing it?
It's my background.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Got it.
Hey, Ron,
Yeah.
how was
Looks
Ann Arbor for you?
nice.
Pegboard racks and oval die cut colored mats.
Those were in for quite a while though, so.
Well, yeah, I know. I kept the
Can't-
company in
can't find
business that was selling the mats.
And what'd you have for a tent?
This is a mall show. I didn't do outdoor shows yet.
Where was the mall? Or I should say, where was the mall?
Roosevelt Field on Long Island.
Oh, on Long Island. Wow.
Long Island.
Right.
I still miss that mall.
Does it still exist?
Yeah.
How many days was the show on the mall? Was it 5?
No. And Roosevelt Field was like 10 days, I think.
Oh, geez.
Twice
Wow.
a year. I used to do all the Long Island malls when I first started. And that was with Julie Williams, Woodwill Corporation. And it's funny because I called Julie up like a week ago. I hadn't
Huh.
spoken to her in like 40 years. And it was really funny talking to her. She's still doing the same thing, but she's not doing mall shows anymore.
And how did they go? I mean, you know, you did them for a while, it sounds like, so that must have been good.
Well, they were good enough that I was able to give up my $11,000 a year civil service job, which doesn't say too much.
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
11,000 back then was pretty good money. Not great, but it was pretty good.
I remember taking my first paycheck, it was $400 or something, and buying a Martin guitar with it.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And now you're a rock legend in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Rock star.
Amazing how that turned out.
Yeah, isn't it?
So Ron, how was Ann Arbor for you?
Okay, not great, but it was okay. How about for you?
It was just okay, average, nothing special.
How about you, Barry? How was it? Did it rock and roll?
I did okay. Well, see, I compare it to the old days. So, and being economically minded, it isn't the dollars you took in, but what you could buy with those dollars. And when I did the same as I did actually I did less than I did in the 80s and 90s. And you'd multiply to do what I did then. You'd have to multiply those numbers by two and a half, and instead it was less than what I took in then. So it was okay.
Did you find
It was okay, but you know, it wasn't great.
well, both of you, did you find that the crowd
Hey, Jeff.
was not, they weren't really buying a whole terribly lot. They were kind of subdued.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, that's been the trend this year with every single show that I've done. But you know, there's some shows you get. I just finished Loring Park, and it's the last year that Cindy and Pat are putting it together. They're retiring, so the people that do the Artstone show is going to take over. But that was show this weekend. It's not the best way to describe it. It's not a high-end show, but doesn't have enough traffic to make it a good low-end show. But you get a sprinkle of both of them. So like I tell people that if you're going to do it, you have to tie it up to Uptown, because Loring Park will cover the expenses for both shows if you're staying up there. And then Uptown will be whatever you're making Uptown is for you.
When you say
But-
low end, you mean lower income than you had hoped for, or lower quality work?
No, it's like low income buyers. It's like the $40 to $100 item is moving. You don't have enough of that, and then you only have a few of the big ticket items, and the middle point is really not there neither. So, but it's a beautiful show, and I will do it again. But it's not like you kind of go there thinking you're going to make like last year did really really well.
Hey,
And this year went back to what I consider just bare minimum average for me to do it again.
Where's the location?
No, it's not the location. Location's always
No,
been
where-
the same.
Minneapolis.
Where?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. Okay.
I've noticed that quite a few shows this year have gone through changes in the last year, this year or last year, with management, and I don't I don't think they've been good changes. New management coming in, the shows seem to be suffering with attendance and buyers.
Yeah,
You could have said that 25 years ago. It
Yep.
hasn't changed.
but at this point, it makes you wonder why they're not hiring retired artists to run shows.
Because
Well,
they're
maybe-
idiots. They're
Well,
incompetent.
but
to
maybe
begin with.
maybe retired artists aren't applying for the job.
They know
All
better.
right. This is public,
Right.
so well, no, if they pay them. Okay, listen. In all the times I've done shows, only been one replacement director that made their show better. One in 35 years, and that was Coconut Grove when they hired Camille. Every other show, when they get has always gone downhill, maybe a little downhill, and then the next director, it's another little more downhill, and then eventually it's a shadow of the way it was. And I'll say that forever. That's been my experience with every single show. There isn't one. There's only one that actually got better or stayed the same. Well, there's the good ones, like St. Louis. When Cindy left, they've maintained their quality.
Well, Sarah at St. Louis she's really good.
Yeah,
That she learned from Cindy.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Well, there's learning, but also not being so like encompassed with your own ego to be open to learning, right? And there's like all those sorts of things.
Well,
exactly.
a big part of the deal at St. Louis was when Cindy left, she left all sorts of, I mean, in addition to her, staying on as a consultant, she had all sorts of processes and things in place
Right.
that a lot of other shows don't do. They don't have those in place. So
Right.
when
I mean, any
when the
show
show
they
director
should
leaves, there's nothing to guide the new person if they don't have any
There's-
experience.
there's no documentation of that's what you're saying of what they've done.
There's you lose, there's no documentation, there's no timelines, there's no, there's very little in the way of, okay, if I need to do this, what vendor do I contact? So it's like starting all over every time a show director leaves.
Which is a waste of time.
Right.
A
could
lot of
also-
times they hire an event manager who actually can do the mechanics, but has no clue as to our needs and what would be good for us.
Hmm.
Well, it
And
brings
we're
in the
very
wrong type.
specific, genre.
I think that fundamentally, that's one of the whole issues with the art show circuit ever since I've joined it is there's so few promoters have a vision of what their show is trying to accomplish or what they're trying to accomplish with the show, however you say that. What's their goal? And I think that was one of the nice things when Naya tried to do that, was to try to get directors to say, why are you even having this event? And I'm still
Beautiful.
puzzled with rather than
Beautiful.
because if they take over a show that's been there for 15 or 20 years with a director, it would seem like they could learn a lot from what that person had done. And then if they wanted to change specific things to make it better with a vision as to what they were going to try to accomplish. But it seems what I'm seeing in these changeovers this year is that there's no vision of what this show is supposed to do. For example, 2 shows I've been at, they're trying to determine one, do we change it from a 4-day show to a 3-day show or to a 2-day show? And the second one is, do we leave it at this location or do we move it to this other location? And they're asking the artist. And to me, that's wrong. They should ask the patrons. Where's the patrons going to go?
Oh,
Is it
not
paid?
this again. The
Why?
patrons have no clue. You do ask the artists.
No, patrons do have a clue.
No,
Oh,
they have a
they don't.
perception. If you're not in it, you don't know. They have a perception. They have no clue.
And you think all artists have a good clue or perception of what they should do?
Well,
I
there's a
gotta
I think
problem.
that
Larry,
excuse me.
Barry,
I think it's
had-
go ahead. Sorry.
Hi, Court.
It's if you are trying to find a location, I think the public that are attending should have a say in it because they know the community better. I don't know a lot of the communities where I do shows well enough to pick a location.
Right, and in one case, it's a historical location where it used to be held, and then they moved it to a newer location by an art center, and now it's under construction. They've moved it back temporarily, but they're trying to decide, okay, do we now keep it where it historically was, or do we move it to this newer location? But every patron that I asked that came through the show, was about 19 people. Every single one of them said they wanted it in the park where it historically was held. And that's pretty compelling, because artists.
Well, it seems like it's also a business decision, right? How much does it cost in each place? The logistics, like for example, maybe the historic section doesn't want them anymore, or maybe they do. And
Security.
Security. There's all those things that does need to be looked at from that aspect. Now, as far as a
Also,
4-day show,
how many people
Yeah.
you can draw and how big of an audience you can draw is also a huge business decision.
Yeah, because
right.
if you lose patrons coming to the event, then the artists lose sales. And if the artists lose sales, what are they going to do? Turn away from
which is why it needs to be assessed in a non-anecdotal way, regarding, where the show is and all of that.
Okay, and
And the other thing is a 4-day show, that means it's either 5 or 6 days of lodging. That extra day of lodging, it's expensive.
But again, we're looking at this. So is that not a little myopic to say that we're looking at it from our personal perspective? Because if we don't have patrons come to the event, then
Then there's no point.
there's no point. Absolutely no point.
Right.
And whose opinion should matter more in that?
It
The
shouldn't be
patrons
an
or the
opinion.
artists?
It shouldn't be an opinion. It should be based on actual numbers.
But no show collects.
Facts.
What show collects the numbers to make that assessment?
Well,
Only-
depending on the
only
show.
a pay admission show would.
Hey, it's more about advertising before the show, and there's things you can do. You go to the local TV station, and in the everybody they all have morning shows. You bring somebody in to talk about their work. You build some, I wouldn't say excitement, but interest. Like this is the poster. I just did our local show, and it's the poster child for every time they got a new director, they did less and less and knew less and less. There's probably 300 new condos in this area down here where the show is, and it's also and they couldn't even put flyers into the none of those people came. They didn't have flyers, in the doorway. How long would that take? You get one day in a couple hours, you stick flyers in there. They were so lame this year that they couldn't even get it together to print name tags. Now, I don't need a name tag, but it would have been nice to have name tags at least.
I think name tags. I like name tags. I think
I know, so do
they
I.
help. They help the customer identify. Oh, you're the artist.
I'm trying to not be too much of a curmudgeon about this. Hey, I sent him my check. This is great. You'll love this one. I sent the check about a month ago, and I have a post office box because I go away a lot, and I just hadn't been to the post office box in a month because and Larry, I went today and got got your package.
Oh,
So yeah. So anyway, I hadn't been there in the month, and I'm looking. So I'm pulling the stuff out of the box, and I'm looking at this envelope that's all bent up and half torn with tape on the end. For some reason, they put it back. They didn't deliver it. They put it back in my box. So they never got my booth fee money, and and nobody said anything to me except I think they were giving me daggers, and I had no idea what that was. Visual daggers, and I think I want to believe that's the other reason why I didn't win an award. They figured they already gave me some money, so and nobody said
You pay
anything.
the booth fee,
They didn't say it. Nobody said anything. That hey, we didn't
Hey,
get your check, so I could go
good
look.
person and pay the booth fee.
I always pay the booth fee.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar.
Barry.
Hey, Barry, I have to give up
Hey,
my
Woody.
title. I may have to hand off my title of president of the Grumpy Old Man Club to you.
Oh no. Oh no. You're you nobody can wrest that title from you. I'm close, but no, you're the
No, I
champion.
think that he's over you, Court, by few years, speed line away.
And Oscar's gonna win the title of I forgot what I was gonna say. Never mind.
You
From a
see,
young man, huh?
He's annoying. He's the most annoying person.
hey,
Stop being
Ron,
annoying.
question: did you this state college also?
Yes,
How they went this year?
that went good this year. For the most part, as far as sales went, there were some decisions made that kind of in the vein of what we're talking about that made absolutely no sense. We had a storm blow through
Yeah.
a storm front on Thursday or Friday. And as far as we could tell, there were no booths destroyed that we could see, but they closed the show after the storm went through. Before,
Yeah.
After the storm.
not before the storm came and hit us, but after it went through, and they said, well, there was some booths, some artwork damage. But I was on Allen Street. There was no booth on Allen Street that we could see walking the whole thing, and other artists same observation. There was no damage that we could see anywhere. So they closed the show, which meant not only for artists, but there were patrons that I talked to that had come in 6 hours away. They had hotels rented. They were planning on coming to the show that afternoon and evening, and then coming back the next day. Well, the show was closing, so they got screwed. This didn't make sense.
For that day, or was it a 2
For that day, yeah. They closed it about 2 hours early, and we were all just scratching our heads, and a lot of us kind of basically ignored the thing and stayed open. But the police came around and said, the show's closing.
Hey, they closed Ann Arbor for the first time ever, but only for an hour and a half, and it was great. Kudos to them.
Yeah, and kudos to whoever they associate with the weather, because did they ever peg that one right? They got that forecast dead on, and they closed.
They canceled before the storm came,
Right.
and then it opened just kind of a half hour after the storm left.
I was so disappointed. No F1, and they closed the show for just a little bit of hell.
Yeah, that's right.
I was expecting, I was expecting to see a tornado going through, but no, just a little bit of rain and a little bit of hell. No big deal.
Yeah,
I would have stayed open.
I liked it. My regret is that it didn't keep raining so that we could have gone home on that day. That was the first day.
Did you follow the survey today?
No, I didn't fill it out.
It's,
I filled it out last year, so I'll probably fill it out.
yeah, they asking. I did. I really think that show needs to end at 8 o'clock. The weekdays. Saturday packing day should close at 6.
Yeah,
it's not safe for anybody to be packing up in the dark.
The only problem is it's the people that are selling well don't want the shorter hours.
Wrong.
The solution to that
I can tell you
would be-
exactly who it was. It's the merchants.
Well,
That show-
thing they have to do then instead of go back to 4 days, do it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and count an hour on.
That's why it's not open on Sunday. I mean,
Yeah.
rationally it should be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but the merchants don't want it on Sunday.
Yeah, blue
So-
law.
No, that's not an art fair. Ann Arbor is not an art fair. It's a merchant sale that they used us to get people to come. It's been that way for 60 years. It's not your normal art fair.
I just captured a squirrel in the bird feeder out back on the video.
My neighbor set up a bird feeder with a camera, and all she's gotten was rats.
Oh.
So, as for the Ann Arbor hours, what do you guys think, since you've been doing it for a lot longer, the Guild show?
Should be 10
The
to 8.
likelihood is that they might shorten the hours.
It should be 10 to 8. You know why? Because by the time you close to 10, walk to the restaurant, 45 minutes pass away, and the restaurant closes at 10 o'clock or the kitchen closes at 10 o'clock, and we cannot eat. And I don't know how many of us can eat during the show, regardless. What happens if we are really busy between 5 and 7? Then you cannot eat. They should close the show an hour early, you know, just for us to go out and eat in the restaurant. It's not like they're going to lose business, because we will have to go eat someplace. And Saturday, they definitely need to close by 6. The last day should be closed by 6 or 7. But 8 o'clock is way too late.
You know, it used to be 4 days. The first 3 days were 10 to 9. But because of the way Ann Arbor was, you actually had to show up at 9 to be able to get a decent parking space. And then it took an hour to get out of there. So really, it ended up being from 9 to 10. At one time.
Are you saying that the reason they don't want it on Sunday is the merchants don't want the show there on Sunday?
Yes.
What's so
Not
special
only
about
that,
Sunday?
not only that, I'm saying that it's been that way since the beginning. I know this because I ran a store when I was 23 years old at South University, and that's what it's about. That's what it was always about. We sold more merchandise in that week than the whole month of December, starting with Thanksgiving.
They also need on Sunday to clean up the city and take everything down. What I'm being told. But
well, they'll tell you anything.
Yeah. But definitely the hours are insane. I think that if they can do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 to 8, Saturday, 10 to 6 or 7, that would be the best for everybody.
Well, why don't you talk to some of the restaurants and see if they could stay open later?
Oh, they've been talking to them for the longest time. Nobody wants to stay longer.
Oh, because the restaurants around the convention center, when Comic-Con's there, stay open till midnight.
But let me put it to you this crazy thing. Starbucks and Main Street in Ann Arbor closed for the show. They need even open.
Oh, gee.
There's plenty of coffee shops around. Who needs Starbucks? It's not drinkable
things
anyway.
about having shows in downtown areas or areas where there's a lot of existing merchants. Getting the merchants approval to do shows is a huge deal. There's areas where the merchants don't want an art show, and they've caused problems, and art shows have not survived there because the merchants don't want them there. So there has to be a trade-off between the merchants and the art show, and if that's working a couple
Not
hours
Ann Arbor.
later,
You're not talking about Ann Arbor. There's no trade-offs. It's their way or the highway. Oh, no, there's no highway. It's their way or it's their way or it's their way, because they need to sell all their old crap that they don't sell with the people that we bring in. And listen, I've been going there since I was 15 years old.
okay, if you didn't bring people in to those merchants, then they probably would not allow you to have the show in that location.
Or has Ann Arbor ever considered moving to a different location?
Never. You
Ann
guys have no
Arbor is-
concept. I'm trying to tell you what it's about, and you're
Wait
like,
a second.
You're
Who
ignoring
said
what
that?
I'm telling you.
Who said that? Who asked
Okay,
that
listen.
question?
I
Believe whatever you want. I'm out. I'm
I
shutting up.
Well, no, because there's 3 or 4 shows that run simultaneously in Connect. You can't just move it to
Why?
another location.
Why is there 3 or 4 shows? because all the merchants through the whole city want to get in on it.
Of course.
That's why there's 1,400 booths. Well, actually, there's 1,200 booths of garbage, and then there's 200 that you would call worthy artists.
I thought you said that over time, Barry, that from the time it started, that the merchants wanted to get in on the action of what was going on in the show. Well, if the show even threatened seriously to move somewhere else, you don't think the merchants might come around to go, we can't lose this business. We need this business.
Yeah.
Like you said, this is the biggest week of the year for a lot of those businesses.
Let me tell you something else. They all whine and complain about us being there, but there's no way that they wouldn't have it. I've said in the past that our power is if we actually didn't have the show. One year they boycotted, so there was no show. Well, actually, there was a year. It was called COVID, but or was. I don't remember I don't remember. Did they have the show during COVID? I don't know. But anyway, that's all we'd have to do, and then they'd be going, please come back. There's been fights. Hey, South University, the original show is over on the other side of, and you guys don't know where this is, but it's on the other side of the diag, the university. And at first, everybody would go there. All the patrons would go there first, and they would all sell out on the Wednesday of the show. They'd all have no work left at the end of the day. And when the people got through buying there, they would walk to the rest of the show. And there was some fight. I wasn't in on it, so I don't really know. But there was a fight between the original show and the South University merchants, and they moved it over by the dental school. And that location isn't so great, and people don't go there like they used to go to the other place. So that whole ambiance of, we got to go to these booths first, doesn't exist anymore, which benefits us over on Main Street because they actually come to Main Street first. So but the original show, even though they call it the original show and it really has the best artwork, it doesn't have the best sales.
No, and because they moved it to North University.
Yeah. And it's
out of
location.
Right. It's out of the flow.
And there's no merchants over there either.
I did the South U show once, the original show.
The original, yeah.
Yeah, I took a sabbatical from the guild and I did the South U show, and it's the first time I broke 20.
Yeah.
Okay,
and that's 40, and that's 50,000 in today's dollars. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Okay, Barry, I got a question here.
Yes.
You're
Sure.
bitching about the merchants, but yet you're saying where there's no merchants, there's also no traffic.
Well, I'm laughing about it. I'm laughing. It's the whole thing's it's ironic. You got to understand Ann Arbor. It's like and University of Michigan, their arrogance is beyond belief. So you can't tell anybody anything because it's Ann Arbor and it's the University of Michigan football team and all that nonsense.
Yeah, that applies to about half the places I do shows.
Not this is that. You know what? God, I'm going to get in trouble because this is going to get posted. And but but
Go
anyway,
do a show in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yeah, same thing. Not
I haven't done it, but yeah.
Oh, right. That's that's great.
Football,
that is its University of Oklahoma. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, they got their comeuppance because everybody's dropping out of the whatever conference they were in. They don't have a conference anymore. They all moved to the Big Ten, but we're in the SEC.
Actually, one of the teams that left just moved back.
Really?
Yep.
Who's that?
Colorado left the Big 12 a while back and just moved back.
Is that where Deion Sanders is the coach, or that's the other?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw a headline, but I didn't read it, so I don't know what went on. Oh, it's a love-hate relationship with Ann Arbor and me. every year I say I'm never going back, and yet there I am. You know?
Well, here I guess this is the way I look at it, and it's my approach to Oklahoma City and the people that bitch about Oklahoma City being 6 days long. Blah, 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 blah. You know, if you go there and you make sales, you make enough sales. Do you have to decide if it's worth it or it's not? Me, it's not worth it even at 4 days because I don't make enough sales. Period. Okay, so I go somewhere else. If I go somewhere else and it's a shitty place to do it, you know,
Ooh.
and there's problems with whatever, but I make a lot of money, then, you know, I got to decide, do I want to put up with the shitty conditions and make money or not? And, you know,
Oh,
I just kind of,
Oklahoma City has its own unique weirdness. And it's kind of fun. I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but I have fun there because there's a certain camaraderie. When you're with the same people for 6 days, you have fun with those people, and I kind of like that.
yeah. And, you
Of
know,
course,
so did I. But, and I would like
Never
to
going
go, you
back.
know, I would consider going back and doing it again if my sales could justify it. My sales don't justify it. So, you know, I guess I just kind of see it as, you know, staying there till 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but, you know, that's the hours the show wants. And if the show wants to listen to artists, great. If they don't want to listen to artists,
Do the show.
you know, there's other shows you can do.
Exactly.
that's with everything, with any weekend of the year.
No, but you know, you cannot say that. There's some shows that are worth doing, other shows it's not. You cannot substitute a show for substituting the show. And sometimes it takes the time to build the show. It all depends if you can afford to get the hit of missing the sales. Because at the bottom of the line, we're doing this to support ourselves, not for the fun of it, you know. So it's a business decision if you can handle or not. So that's my take on that one.
It's just like working for somebody that's an asshole for a boss.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not going to pay me any money and I got to work for an asshole, I'm not staying. They're going to pay me a whole lot of money. Yeah, I'll stay and work.
You
for
might
the
consider
asshole.
it,
They're
right?
paying me to put up with them.
Yeah, my
for as
boss.
long as you can.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
boss is an asshole.
Yeah,
Oh,
same
yeah.
with me. It makes me work from 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night every day.
Right.
Yeah, my boss is a slave driver, that's for sure.
You know, I guess I kind of see, no offense, guys, but I kind of see some of the stuff as whining. You know, everybody was talking about this earlier. It's a job. Okay. Yeah, it's a job. And if the job means we work till 8 o'clock at night and, you know, the restaurants close at whenever, then, you know, we either stash food at the hotel room or call ahead and get carry out and take it to the hotel room or, you know, something. I mean, I do it all the time at shows.
It's not, you know, I don't have a problem with them staying open to whatever it is. I understand that, but I'm just saying I don't remember in particular, the show is, from what I understand, the show was created because the business wanted the show, so they have more control about anything at the show. That's for granted. But at the same token, if you're going to be forcing us to stay at a certain time, although they should stay open for a little longer for us or figure out something to accommodate us, you know, or because, you know, I think the only place that I knew that was open past 10 o'clock was Buffalo Wild Wings. Everything
You know,
else,
I've done shows. I think it's happened at Brookside. I think it's happened at the Plaza. I know it's happened at several shows I've done where the local, I know it happened in St. Louis. The local restaurants come around, leave you a menu, and they'll tell you they'll bring stuff to your booth.
yeah, but they didn't even do that around Ann Arbor.
No,
That
they
would
don't
be
do any of
fine
that
with
in
me.
Ann Arbor. You get nothing. Well, they did have water this time.
You know, that would be great.
No.
If they told me, here's a menu from the prices you can order, they will bring it to your booth.
Actually, they did. They did it at Ann Arbor, but there were only, I think, only one restaurant that served sub sandwiches and stuff. But they did come around, leave a menu, say we will deliver it. Apparently not everybody.
You know,
There's I
actually-
can't remember which show, but they emailed us a menu and you could order now, and then I don't know, it's coordinated through the show, but then they can deliver something to your booth, which is really nice. And but I wonder if restaurants, like especially if you're in a neighborhood, if they might, you know, if your booth is like 2 blocks from the restaurant, if they might, you know, deliver to you if you call them up and say,
you're hitting on a good point, Allison, is that why isn't this coordinated between the show and the merchants, the restaurants, to say, look, our artists need to eat while they're at the show. Can you give us menus to give to our artists? We'll distribute them, and then you can get extra sales from the artist.
right.
Yeah, that would make sense, and coordinate it through the staff.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of coordinating with shows, apparently Plaza Kansas City is not providing tent rental service, so I know people who fly to the show that you know, I've connected with a friend of mine, you know, to get a tent, but I mean, I don't know what percentage of people rent tents, but you know, it's got to be, you know, a good number. I mean,
it's
really
only the
it leaves.
That's probably because they don't
No.
understand. They probably
No.
didn't understand they need to do it.
At Plaza?
What do you mean? They've had the show for 100 years. They
But
didn't.
you
You
understand.
do realize the plaza
All-
is not being run by the same people that ran it last year. It has new
Yeah.
management this year.
And this is what you were going to
There
say
you go.
earlier, Court, about this events management company taking over. And this is, and what you're saying is
There you
this
go.
is a symptom of what we'll see.
Well, but the thing is, if they run events at any event, if you're planning a wedding, you need tents. I mean,
Dun,
so
dun,
it seems like a
dun.
very
But they're
basic
not. They're
thing.
probably not used to doing events where they need to provide, you know, rental tents for individual vendors.
But all
Of
they
course.
do is they provide the connection. You know, they don't. And Barry, other people besides jewelers, like old people,
I know.
rent
I
tents that
wasn't.
don't
I
want
was I was tongue in cheek, Allison. Come on.
to. I know.
So are the tent rental companies going to be available for the Naples shows now that there's a new director?
You'll have to ask them. Nothing's a sure thing. Naples, Florida.
Yeah,
That's a
Okay.
new-
yeah, because the artists couldn't rent tents and they couldn't use pop-ups. They found out a week before the show last year.
Oh, I love it.
And the tent rental companies refused to work with them because they wouldn't
Oh,
allow them into the park early to set up.
so Plaza said to the artists, buy a tent from Costco, a pop-up.
Yeah.
and use
Yes,
that
that's
for
right.
Plaza.
I
Yeah.
heard that.
Buy a
read
cheap
that.
tent from Costco and have all your stuff get blown into wherever. That's great.
But also,
your
Yeah.
next door neighbor.
also the waste, you know, of all these tents. I mean,
And then return it. right?
Again, it's inexperienced.
Yeah, return it
vendors.
after the weekend.
Right.
That'd be great. That'd be hilarious.
but you know what, Court? I think you're right. I think that's it. And I mean, you know, it's pretty outrageous.
Hey,
And from all the
they don't
years
let me
that,
into their show anyway, so the hell with them.
well, from all the years that you guys have done Plaza, have you found very many artists that didn't have their own tents?
I've never done Plaza, but at any show, there's probably at least 30 artists or more that have rented a tent for various reasons. I mean, I know somebody who's local to Brookside and she rents a tent because she doesn't want to set it up and take it down. And the tent rental is pretty reasonable. And so, you know, there's a,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd say it's, you know, at most way less than 10%, probably less than 5% of artists at any show want to rent a tent.
Yeah, I would.
I don't think that's-
Depends on the
Well,
show.
No,
So
I
the-
don't think that's true because if you're, you know, let's say, you know, you're going to like the mountain states to do shows and you know, you might fly out and ship your work depending on what it is. Like if you're a textile artist, you could do that.
No, but I
So-
think you're an exception, Allison. I don't think most artists at art shows do that.
No, Howard Allen shows a lot of artists rent.
Yeah. And he offers
So-
it way in advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
usually it's through the company and it's via the show and they have a rate.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Art in the High Desert, a friend of mine looked to rent a tent and it was very expensive, like $900. And she contacted the show director and he arranged with a different company. And now it's maybe $250, $300.
Yeah,
And
that's the most
so
it
remember,
should be.
you're renting a tent, weights, and those weights, are usually barrels of cement or something. So,
Water.
it's just something that a certain portion of artists do need. Not everyone can drive for various reasons.
Yeah,
but
that's a
I will tell you,
standard
based
staple.
on showing up early at a show and seeing the tents that are in place,
Yeah.
it's less than 10%.
Okay.
It's probably
But
5%.
still,
It doesn't
then those
matter,
people
though.
can't do the show. I
10%
mean,
10% is 20 or 30 tents. So
At a big 200 artist show, yes, but at a regional show that's maybe got 100, 150 artists, you're only talking about 10 people.
all those people have cheap pop-ups. Usually a small show like that.
No,
No.
that's not true. That's not. That's
I'm
not
talking
true.
about I'm talking about the show I just did, the local show. They
Well-
didn't get my check.
'Cause
at the local artist market that I do, people have the expensive pop-ups and they also have, more than 200 pounds of weight. I mean, we get plenty of wind here. But I'm the only, maybe there's one other person that has a different, like I use my light dome because we borrowed a nice pop-up, but Eric couldn't set it up around me where the light dome he could set up around me while I'm setting up the displays. And there's not been an issue because they're generally not the cheap crap pop-ups. I see people are using stay bars and they're using really, really, really heavy, cement or steel weights. And but in general, I mean, those Costco, I started out with a Costco tent, and an artist once saved my tent from flying away, even though it was staked in the ground and I had weights on it. But that was the last time I used that tent. And I bought it because I didn't know. And that's why it would be nice if, like, on the resource page for the NEIA, resources for artists, how to weigh your tent, and that kind of thing. But that's a different story. But people don't know until they start doing shows. So this artist this jeweler I talked to, who's just doing her very first shows in this fall, I of course told her about the weights. And not all shows say you must weigh your tent. And I mean, it would be nice if all shows had that information, but they don't. And there are simply people who just don't know. They just haven't learned it yet.
I just suggest the guy next to me at the Stanley show in Denver that maybe that he should really wrap the tie down strap around the bucket of concrete rather than attaching it to the wire handle that was already pulling out of one side of the bucket.
Oh yeah, that was a
Yeah.
good suggestion.
That's
The handle was going to come off the bucket, the tent was
Of
going to go
course.
flying, and the weight was going to be sitting there on the ground.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the same asshole that had a small trailer that he rolled in by hand because they wouldn't let him bring his vehicle and trailer in. So they let him roll the trailer in by hand and he promptly rolled it into the side of my tent.
Well, that stopped it.
And then claimed he didn't do it.
Hey, Oscar, I think the jeweler next to us, I think that's who it was. I asked how much she paid for her tent because she had a pop-up, but it was a heavy duty one. She told me she paid $2,500 for it.
Yeah, that
You
much.
know what? I looked at those expensive pop-up tents, about 5 different brands,
Yeah.
and they were more like
Vitality.
$800 at most. I didn't see anything for $2,500.
I
There are some.
I
There
did.
some.
I saw
Vitality.
some today.
I think Easy Up
Really?
makes some in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. The
They do
heavy
now,
duty
yeah.
Easy Ups
I looked
are
at it.
expensive.
Huh.
I looked at them.
You know, I'm going to tell you, for some shows that would be great to have.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
the
thinking
trim
about it.
line, Oscar, that's a trim line that you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great temp, but yeah, it is definitely a lot of work. The light dome is pretty easy though. I mean, it really,
Well,
you know, with two people, you can get that thing up in 10, 15 minutes.
the craft hut is once it's up, it's a tank. But there's all
Mhm.
those parts that you have to put together, so it takes me longer to get
Right.
set.
I think similar to the trim line, also lots of
Yeah.
parts,
Yeah,
but it's
but,
also, so it's steel.
but it's less parts than the trim line.
I don't think
But
so.
I used to,
the only,
I was able to put a craft hut up in under 10 minutes with my panels out of the
I
back
could,
of my
I
truck.
can't. Takes me an
Wow.
hour.
I couldn't do it now, but when I was younger.
well, the reason I got the light dome's aluminum, and it was just considering weight in the car because the trim line is so much heavier.
I'm sitting
But
here
that's
looking at the Easy Up page.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Their Freedom 83 10x10 American made canopy. I mean,
Freedom, does that include bodily autonomy? I digress.
Yes. Now
It's
look at the
trans-
Majestic.
It's
says
transgender.
very compliant top. I have no idea what very compliant top. Laminated
means-
polyester,
That means it's
fire
fireproof.
resistant coating.
Yeah.
So it
They're
has
all
to do with
fireproof.
probably California. Yeah, $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that?
That's an Easy
That's
Up.
a brand new light dome is less than that.
1,500. I looked at it today.
A light dome?
Yeah.
With
I
the
thought-
stay bar, I guess.
No, not with the stay
That's what
bars.
they said.
That's
Okay.
before the stay. Yeah.
You know, the tents right now, they're starting at 1,500. There was a kid that came and Lauren probably asking me about it, and I told her, yeah, the problem that you're going to, if you buy everything brand new, you're going to be easily in the $5,000 to $7,000 investment for a 10x10 if you want to do it a proper way. And that's a lot of money. And the kid said that's not a concern for him, but I'm going like, it's
That's
a lot
with
of
everything.
money.
I don't know if you need
A new trim line with stay bars, just a new stock trim line with stay bars, no zippered sides or anything is $1,200.
You
Yeah.
need zippered sides.
Now, you
Right,
actually, if I would do it again, I would get the one with the two zippers in each side, because it's a lot easier to roll up one piece of one section at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. For the front, you mean.
And you can swap those out and they cost like 50 or $60 more.
You could do it right now. It's not anymore. It's not 50 or $60.
No, not to
This-
buy them by themselves, it's not. But
Yeah,
if you were
right.
buying a new tent to
Yeah.
get the zippered
Mm.
side instead of a regular
Oh,
side.
right.
By
Okay.
the way,
Thank you.
another reason somebody might rent a tent is they can't afford to spend the money on a proper tent, and they're new to shows, so that would be
Yeah.
another reason. Because that's, you know, when you haven't done shows, and that's a lot of money to shell out. And I bought, my light dome was new, but last year I bought a used one for parts for $350, and it's in phenomenal condition.
Yeah. You
And
can
they
buy
also
them
gave
used.
me, they also gave me, and it's an older kind, so it's all there's less plastic on it, I should say. And then they threw in some really nice stone setting burrs.
Also, you know, the other thing they have to consider is what kind of vehicle the person has to travel. So it might not be able
That's
to
right.
put the tent or everything else in there.
Oscar, I did my very first shows, like for a couple years, in a Honda Civic, and
Oh,
the tent fit.
I had a Subaru and it all fit in there.
Yeah, I have
Subaru
a
station
Subaru.
wagon.
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a four.
When you see Michael Brown, the guy that does the the image that they change as you look at them, just
Is he the
ask him.
one? Is he the one in the sedan?
No, I don't think so. But if you look, if you see him, ask him. He knows me when I starting. He used to see me rolling with a car, the pro panels and the roof attached with no
Yeah.
rack. They were just attached to the roof. That was swinging.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what you had to do. I mean, because you were learning, and it's
I
it's
don't think
hard to
anybody
lay
had
out.
vans. Nobody had vans in those days, and a tent was a new thing.
Oh,
The first year I did Coconut Grove, my neighbor drove a Corvette and pulled a trailer.
Cool.
That's hysterical.
My first tent was a craft hut, and I picked it up in Fort Myers
Yep.
on the way to Coconut Grove. Because that's where he made them, in his garage.
Yeah, every year when I went to Florida, I used to have repair work done on my craft hut.
uh,
Oh, this
So-
is interesting. I was just looking at I was just browsing through the Easy Up site. The $3,000 Easy Up and the $2,500 Easy Up and the $1,300 Easy Up don't come with sides. That's the top, the frame, and a bag.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Because I looked and you had to. I thought the same thing, and you had to find it somewhere in fine print. They said you get the sides, but I could be wrong.
actually,
I just looked. It says included. I mean, it
Yeah,
in the description
right.
it says what's included, and it says, top, frame, carry case. That's it.
I think you
Actually-
get a back, like a 5 feet in the back too. There's a little setup or something.
so just to let you know, I'm in the website for Trimline right now. 7-footer 10x10 Trimline as today it's $1,560. That's the bare bone. If you want the tall one, the 9-footer, it's $1,890.
Yeah,
So why are the Easy Ups so expensive? I mean, crazy.
because of all the reinforcements and the corners and everything.
The
I
whole
would
folding
imagine. I
mechanism.
think. Huh? Go ahead.
The whole folding mechanism.
Yeah, they
Uh-huh.
redesigned all that.
I mean, I used a durable, a so-called durable Easy Up, and it was more reinforced. But
Yeah.
a wind came through, and Eric and I kind of had to finagle it. It got a little bent, and we had to straighten it out. And it's part of it is the way all the parts are connected. The light dome, it's very easy. If sometimes the pipes, because they are aluminum, they get bent out of shape. But I, have a stake that I could just straighten it out with, and it's just much more straightforward as far as repairing.
I know. Hey, I looked at it really closely, Court and Allison, and I still have no confidence in, because boy, those posts look really thin, and the webbing at the top, that doesn't look that as stable as you would think it would look to pay $1,800 for a tent.
Yeah.
So
Well, then the other thing is, because of the way it's connected, I think it would be harder to repair. Like
Yeah,
one of my feet broke on the light. Well, first I had some of the rivets came out, so I was able to re-rivet them, but a foot broke, like the metal sheared off, and for I don't know, I think it was $35. I was able to order a whole nother bottom part of the foot. Put that back on. So with the Easy Up, that would be another question, and those prices, as far as repair, because you want to be able to repair what you have.
now I know people that have had those high-end Easy Ups, except they were only $500 at one time, not when the normal one was 200. So, this is a while ago. but those tents never went over in the wind. They were really stable and they didn't leak.
The biggest problem with the cheap easy ups, is
Easy
they
up,
don't
easy
shed
down.
water.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was
I
it
don't know.
called? The Imperial?
Majestic.
Majestic, right.
I don't know if the higher end easy ups have the same problem or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the
I would
tops
hope
are
not.
tighter, so maybe they don't shed, they shed water
He-
faster.
I don't know where this happened, but like the tent of choice by beginners and amateurs is the Euromax. And it's funny because I was talking to somebody who just used one for the first time and they went, "Why is the water pooling up in the top?" So apparently that problem still exists with pop-ups,
Yeah,
or at least some.
you have to put something in the corners like hula hoops or
A
pool
noodle.
noodles.
You,
Yeah.
you do, you know.
But
Yeah,
they don't know that yet.
There was this vendor selling freeze dried candy near me at Oklahoma City. I could see his booth. He
Scary.
was over and a couple down, and I went over and told him, I said, you need to look online and get some pool noodles because the water will collect on top of your tent, because he was brand new. Said the water will collect on top of your tent and it'll collapse it. And sure enough, we got a heavy rain and he came in, and there was almost so much rain he couldn't lift up and push up to get the water off.
Yeah.
That's when you stick a pinhole in it. Or
Not
a
with,
couple.
not with dry candy.
What's Candy doing at one of our shows?
It was, over with the food vendors.
Hey, they're the ones that
Oh,
pay for the show.
yeah. Jesus Christ, leave me alone.
Those bill collectors, Barry. Those bill collectors.
No,
Is that your girlfriend?
no,
You one of the chicks you picked up at Ann Arbor?
no.
Oh, he didn't get that lucky.
Oh, you know what? I talked to the girls next to me, and Oscar's going, "Hey, they too young. Stop hitting on them." I'm just talking to them. This
Oh
is gonna
God!
be ridiculous.
Even then, there was he's hitting on me, Oscar, all weekend long. Do
You were
something.
hitting on them, and I was talking to them.
I wasn't even paying attention. My girlfriend's insured right now.
Yeah. In fact, you were not in your booth the whole time.
Oh, I don't say in the book when there's nothing going on.
Well,
Ah,
Maybe there's nothing going on because you're not in the booth.
No, that's
Right.
I only walk away when my booth. Like I will say.
he's never there. He's wandering around.
Nah. When Will say to you that that the show is over for you, and if you stay in your booth, you get irritated.
Yeah.
So I'm like him. Like when I start getting a little bit irritated because I'm not selling anything for an hour, I just walk away from the booth just to cool off and come back and be in a good mood to keep selling.
How about 4
That's
or 5
what-
hours?
That's what I have to do when Eric is with me at a show. I can walk out of the booth because sometimes you need to. But as a jeweler, you can't walk out of the booth if you're the only one there. So
Yeah, and
you have
also
to
sure.
you have
I
to
went
go
to the
somewhere in
bathroom,
your
I don't know how
brain.
many times when I was there.
Mhm.
That's the other thing. So I was going more to the porta potty than anything else, or getting coffee, or getting lunch, or trying to figure out. Like if you placed your order and they tell you we will text you in 25, 45 minutes before you get your food. It's ready. You got That's what's me.
I bring my own food.
Yeah,
Makes it easy.
I run out of stuff to eat right away. I was eating too much junk.
So I spend the day before a show. So like on Wednesday, I make all kinds of salads and things, and it'll last through the weekend of the show. And
Amazing.
I really hate like in the middle. If the show goes like 10 to 8 on Saturday, and so I don't have to think about it. I could just stick a fork in, and I have healthy, clean food, and it just makes me happier.
You know, it's just that I never like to eat in front of in my booth.
Yeah, but I can, if Eric's with me, I can go into the back. I like sitting in the back of the booth, like outside the booth, but behind the booth, where I could just stare into space and I don't have
Yeah.
people, talking to me.
But that's the problem.
And-
That's the problem for me. I work alone and I don't have nobody to watch it.
Right.
So I need to. Sometimes I go the whole day without eating because of that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, what about like snacks at least, pretzels or almonds or little stuff?
And I tried to do that this weekend, and you know how
Mhm.
many times people came to the booth when I have something in my mouth.
Yes. Yeah.
I can guarantee
wait.
if you want to pull people into your booth, sit down and start eating. Guaranteed to bring people into your booth every time.
It's just it was like a seriously.
You can sit there for 3 days with nobody in your booth. As
Mhm.
soon as you put the second mouthful of food in your mouth, here they come.
Right.
And they all want to talk to you.
And they say, oh, I'm just looking. Don't stop eating.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Well, next weekend I got Uptown Art Fair.
I hope you're not on Hennepin.
I'm in Hennepin. Why I want to be in the mall? The mall is the worst area in that show now.
I thought Hennepin was the worst area.
No, the mall has always been the worst area. It's been getting it robs. They something
Oh.
every week, every year.
When I did it, it was on the robbery was on Hennepin, or the slashing of the booths.
Now it's in the mall.
And plus, they stopped doing any kind of investment in that area. Well, before George Floyd, but certainly since then,
Well, I used to do really well in Hennepin, and every time any of the people that I know, they do the show regular, they put it in the mall. The show for them drop like a 90%.
Mhm.
So even a bad spot in Hennepin is better than the mall right now. So the only drawback on Hennepin, you have to set up on Friday morning.
Yeah. No, thank you.
You start at 7 and you done by 11. You still have time to eat something. The show starts at 1, I think. So
I talked to Sarah in St. Louis yesterday, and she appreciated getting a phone call, and she appreciated me letting her know that I was available to do the show on short notice. And she said usually before she invites somebody off the wait list, she goes and checks their website because she doesn't want to, offer it to somebody that's doing another show that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that I was available was nice. So
Excellent.
I better call her.
And Court, last year she told me that so many people did well at Park City that they canceled.
Well, I hope so, because the downside of the phone call yesterday was she said I've only had one person drop. And she said that was unusual, that she'd only had one.
Well, there's a whole August of shows.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I'm gonna call her tomorrow.
You're not that far. How long is it for you to St. Louis?
7 hours. I told her she could let me know as late as like the Wednesday morning before the show.
That's great.
Me too.
Yeah.
Is Thursday setup day? Yeah.
No, it's Friday. It's it starts Friday evening and setup is Friday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, did they were allowing people in certain areas to set up on Thursday? Did they change that?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. I know that you could set up early on Friday if you agree to be a mentor, which I agreed to be, but I don't know if I am or not. But I don't know about Thursday. I did it 2 years ago, I was part of their mentor program, and when I went to set up Friday morning, everybody around me had set up Thursday night. There was a certain part of, not the whole show, but there were one certain or two certain parts of the show that you could set up on Thursday night, and I was in that part of the show. Okay. Well, I have no idea one way or another about that, but I'm so glad that you reached her. And, you know, there's still, as I say, there's still, you know, there are a lot of shows in August.
Yeah, me
So-
too,
I know.
Troy. You reminded me because that was going to be my project for this week. Finagle my way into St. Louis off the wait list. So I'll call her tomorrow.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. And so yeah, I know there's, between now and then there's art shows there's a show, fairly decent sized shows every weekend. So
Yeah,
I think the
yeah.
closer
There's
we get to the show, the better chance there is. And, by being available at the last minute,
Mhm.
because that Monday before is a holiday.
Labor Day, right. And there's tons of shows Labor Day weekend,
yeah,
Right.
right? There's Long's Park, Art in the Pearl. There's
yeah.
no longer Sausalito.
And
What else?
before then it was what's in Colorado, and then there's Park City, and I'm leaving one out. Sun Valley.
Yes. I don't know if people
Woodland.
cancel after doing Sun Valley, but
Well, no, but if you do one, you do more than one.
oh yeah. I'm doing Sun Valley. Um,
In fact, a friend of mine who left today to go out there said, maybe you'll be getting a call because maybe I'll have to cancel. And I told him, well, make sure you tell him that you want to give your space to me specifically when you call to cancel. But I'm going to work it tomorrow. I mean, you can't call him a gazillion times, but at least I can call him once tomorrow. And I was wondering when the best time to do that. But since you called yesterday, Court, or today, Court, I'm doing it tomorrow.
well, last year a lot of people canceled because they had done so well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know 2D people sell out. I don't know if jewelers ever sell out. I mean, I just can't imagine. I mean, I just don't make that many quantity in sales. I've seen ceramic artists sell out.
Yeah.
She said she usually has people drop after Cherry Creek,
Oh, really?
which I thought was kind of unusual because that's 2
So
months in
early.
advance.
Right.
But I guess if you're doing, you've got a bunch of, you're doing shows almost every weekend throughout the summer, that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is a surprise. I find that interesting that she looks at the website. I think they're just being cautious with fraud.
No, that's more of the Ricky Love thing.
The what? Wait.
Ricky.
Don't lose
I don't
that number.
I don't know what you're saying. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about.
Ricky did like not this year, last year that he was in Naples and Coconut Grove at the same time, and Camille kicked him out because he was.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, she was talking about she didn't want to, she looked at websites for 2 reasons. One is she wanted to bring in an artist, that had similar to work to the person that couldn't make it, to keep the balance.
Mm-hmm.
And she also wanted to look to see if they were doing another show that weekend. And if they already had another show scheduled for that same weekend, then she was going to go offer it to somebody else.
Right.
You got to consider that if she's been with the show for a number of years in another capacity, she knows everybody's work and she knows everybody. I mean, I show up and they call me by my name. They talk to me like
Raku.
Well, last year, there was the problem with St. Louis because there was not with the show, but there was a jeweler who had stolen other people's images. And
Oh yeah.
So that's another reason to look at somebody's website. But I think that's pretty diligent. I'm sure I've said this before, but I know at St. Louis they have they have someone come around who's a compliance officer,
Yeah.
and you know,
With
it's
with a
I
printout
appreciate that.
of
Yeah.
your work. Yeah.
The first year I did it, that's what Lyric was doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it protects us.
Hey, if they want to copy my work, go for it. But
No, what
come back.
happened? No,
It
no,
was-
what happened was it was images of the work were
They
put
took
together with other
artists'
images.
jury images and used them to get into the show.
You know something I'd really love to try is I'd like to take photographs of Picasso's ceramics and send those in as my
you
images and
can.
see if anybody would notice.
No, you mean if anybody would accept him?
No, even if they'd notice it, if they'd actually realize that it's Picasso ceramics.
Yeah, you've heard the story about Jerzy Kosinski, the author.
No, what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, years ago, somebody took one of his manuscripts, one of his books, and sent it in to see if they would publish it, and everybody turned it down.
I believe that. Yeah, that's funny.
But nowadays you could just take some distinct lines and Google it to see what comes up, I suppose. If you're
You could use AI.
Well, yeah.
No, what I'm saying is
How
you
come
could
the
you could
scammers don't use AI and those emails with the
They
wrong-
do, and they are.
I'm
Hello,
still
sir or
getting
madam?
emails with incorrect grammar.
They're
Yes.
starting to now. I've been getting
Well, I'm
them,
getting-
so I know that.
I'm getting tons of emails for bullshit companies wanting to sell you their mailing list for the show.
Right.
Oh, used to get those?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do
Oh,
too.
I'm
I
getting-
don't even open them.
I'm
I
getting a
used to
lot
leave
of them this year.
Really?
I
Yeah, I
must
get
have
one
just,
every week.
Does anybody
must-
Yeah.
actually fall for that?
I must have done
Apparently,
something to get
yes.
off their list because I haven't seen any lately. Either that or my spam blockers catching them.
Yeah. Do you feel left out, Kurt? Because Court,
Not at all.
Court. Because I haven't been getting them either. I actually got a couple, but that's it.
I'm like Oscar, I'm getting them all the time.
Yeah,
I got one today from St. Louis, and I thought it was from the St. Louis Art Fair, and it wasn't. It was somebody trying to sell the visitor list to the St. Louis Art Fair.
Yeah, same thing. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I know.
Paul Jaselskis, he'll engage him. He has a guy named Dick Headley. He signs everything Dick Headley, and he'll sit there and engage him and go on back and forth with him. You know,
who?
I've done it too. I've gone back and forth with him and asked him about this and asked him about that. And
Let's see. Isn't that a Kurt Vonnegut character? Dick
I
Headley
gotta
is a
run.
fictional character.
My timer to check my dinner is going off.
Let it burn.
What's for dinner?
I am making shredded pork. So right now I have a pork tenderloin sitting on a bed of onions, and I have to go check it because it's cooking uncovered and I want it to brown evenly, and I have to stir the onions so they get all nice and brown and caramelized.
How do you
Okay.
shred it?
Well, I used to have some bear claws until a mouse got into them, but I usually just use 2 forks.
Oh, I was always wondering about that with shredded
I need to get some new bear claws.
Do you have your meeting tonight, Court?
No, next week.
No.
This is a regular Tuesday. Are you on the message list, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. It's normally by that time I'm just about falling asleep. I get up at 4:30 every morning.
Wow. Voluntarily?
Now I have to pee every 2 hours.
The Cheshire Cat is back.
But if it's after 3:30 or so, I just get up and exercise. I walk on the treadmill for a half hour.
Wow.
That's how I start my day.
Hmm.
Coming in and out, it's like
Mr. Gray's
like-
the Cheshire Cat.
beam me onto Court's shoulder.
Yeah, and you can't see the cat, so
Right.
it's funny.
All right, we'll see
It's an
everybody next
invis-
week.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bye.
All right, see ya.
that's an invisible cat.
Right.
Oh.
Ah, so is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it went an hour and a half.
Yeah. Barry,
Ooh.
I'm gonna call you in a few minutes.
Me?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
You're in trouble. You're in
I wanna,
trouble.
no, I want to take it off the meeting, so I'm gonna end the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
All
dinner
right.
time anyway. See you guys next week.
All
Bye.
right.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll be. I probably won't
I
be
know.
here. So
You'll be driving to a
okay.
show.
Yeah. Actually, I might be hiking because I'll be on the road already. So
Right.
anyway, have a good
Hey,
one.
careful
right.
driving,
Good luck at your
Allison, and have a
shows.
great
Thank you.
show.